So, question, why you need automation? What is even automation?
I think so, and you can chime in here too as we go. What I automation in simplest terms is going to be, you know, literally putting a business on autopilot to where you're not having to go out and manually get leads. You're not having to manually go out and send them communications. You're not having to manually give them touch points. It's all happening automatic. And God, man, there's so many ways to automate a business that, as you and I talk about, our Basecamp and Everest methods, I think a lot of people look at it as one big, I need to automate my business. And they start going down that rabbit hole of, holy crap, there's 100 systems I have to put in place to make this work. And I mean, you and I over the years, you gotta start small.
Mm.
And so I think that's kind of the biggest thing, is that automation is needed. Automation is a business driver, and automation is something you do in steps.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think so. It's so easy to get overwhelmed by it. And it's so easy to have this picture in mind and expect everything just to work. It really does. I think actually going through automation as a way of um, thinking of it from a perspective of automating your business, I think it's a really good practice to go through. Even if you don't automate everything, it gets you thinking about the processes, the way
Yeah.
you market, the way you communicate, the way that you take one person to another part of the process, say customer journey, or transition from an online perspective to a human perspective. I think it really gives you clarity as to where things may not be working correctly versus the bits that are working, and then how can you adapt that process to something else. For me, why you need automation, I think we're in this world now where nobody has patience. Everybody procrastinates.
Right.
There's so many distractions, right, out in the market. And unless you give someone something that instant, they've forgotten about you. And so even if you just automate the parts of connecting your website to something that can ping them in an email, or send them a note that's personalized to their journey using chatbots or whatever else there is out there, for me, that should be your absolute minimum criteria. And for
Yeah.
me, that is why you need. And as we step out of this horrendous pandemic that we've found ourselves in, more and more businesses are now finding themselves having to digitize themselves. The market's going to get crowded. And unless you start seriously thinking about automating those tasks that you spend when you've got time on, which could be too late, that should be the absolute minimum. And that's why you should have automation.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head too, man. And this is what we see all the time, is that people, they try to put it in place too quick,
Yeah.
and they don't at least have, like, I do a 10-day rule. Basically, like, you should have content ready for 10 days, or you should have a plan that gives you like a 10-day buffer. And that's what, like, as someone might rush and say, okay, we're going to get automation in our business. We got this new CRM, we got this new chatbot, we got all this new stuff. We're going to put it in play, and boom, they put it out there. And they don't have the foresight to think through the channels, the personalization, which I know we'll get to at another time, but they don't really think through what that's going to be. And that's why, as the market gets crowded, because I think people are realizing, businesses are realizing they need it more and more, because it's like AI. It's like AI for your business on any budget. You don't have to have millions of dollars to have essentially an artificial intelligence system for your business. But in the rush to get it out, people put out so much crap, just so much garbage, to where it's one size fits all. It's sending emails when they feel like it. They're not trying to figure out when it's best for that particular prospect. And like, that's all automation. I think that, one of the next item that we'll talk about, examples. I think automation is almost best described or best illustrated with examples of what it is.
Yeah, I agree. I
You
absolutely.
know,
And it's great because we've worked with so many different clients from all sorts of different industries that all have their own take on what they want to automate and
yeah,
what they see as success. And I think there's a key here that if you really
And
want to think about automation, you really got to think about what does success look like, and then how can that automation adapt to it?
and
Because
also to add to that, I don't mean to cut you off, but these different businesses need different lengths of automation.
correct.
And I think where a lot of people go wrong is that a business selling lower cost items might think that they have to have this huge automation system, this multi-channel, all this stuff they don't need. You have to set up automation just like you'd set up your business in terms of what your ideal sales cycle is, how long it takes someone to find your business and how long it takes them to hopefully buy your product or service, and then figure out your automation systems to suit that. And so many people just go down that rabbit hole of trying to buy all this stuff, and then they get kind of underwater and they're drowning trying to figure out how to put it all together and make it work, when in reality, they just needed a chatbot and an email marketing system, and that will do the job that their business needs it to do. Yeah. You don't need all the other stuff. So I think that's something that we constantly still see. You know, you and I have worked on projects together. You know who I'm talking about here, where there's so many systems in place and so many different people running those systems, and nobody knows what is happening. Yeah. And that's where automation can fail. That's where it can absolutely fail. So, I mean, those are just, that's kind of like that weird reality of it, that it's a great thing. But
no, I agree. And it fits perfectly into the next point, as you just made, explained there about examples of what clients are using automation for. What you just described is, I suppose, the worst case part. Yes, it can be brilliant and it could seriously transform a lot of things for you. At the same time, it could be one of your worst nightmares and it could create chaos. There's, I suppose, automation by paralysis, right? It's just,
it can hurt your business. It can hurt your business. Yeah. And I think there's a few, like, I think examples we can get into right now. I've seen it, and this is a really dumbed down version, a really surface level version, but with automation, many companies still do it where they automate different, they automate your nurture sequences, and that's a good thing to do, but you don't want to automate it too far in advance.
I agree.
And I've seen it happen where a company will automate it too far. And what I mean by automate is that they'll have, let's say they have a 2-month email system going out, right? Where clients are getting X number of emails for 2 months.
Yeah.
As a business, they forget about that because it's running for 2 months, right? And let's say something horrible in the world happens, and then they send out the email on the same day that's like, oh, spring is in the air. It's a great day for spring, but we just had like a really bad thing happen in the world.
Yeah,
I've seen that happen. And so I think automation can sometimes make us a little lazy when you're not on top of it. Like automation is not something, contrary to popular belief, where you just set it and forget it. You have to be looking at it. It takes away all the manual labor of doing it, but you still have to know when things are going out. You still have to be checking it. You still have to understand that you're still gonna have to play a part in that. It's got to be dynamic. And so I have seen it on, gosh, like, I mean, heck, you and I've been doing this for almost a decade, but I've seen it happen multiple times where people are automating and almost getting themselves in trouble with their customer base because they're like not being sensitive, or they're not understanding, like, hey, why are you sending me this email today? Like, don't you understand what's going on in the world? And you're talking about, flowers and bunnies and stuff like that. So it's just something that you kind of have to keep a good track on. You got any examples of where you've seen it go wrong?
I agree. And I'll just quickly extend your point, because I call it automation does not work for seasonal processes or campaigns unless it's booked in advance to the point where you can control something that's maybe no further than 2 weeks in time. I mean, we've had, especially businesses. I've worked with like a florist before, like people that sell flowers, and they work in the wholesale space. And using this example of how automation worked for them, they have multiple seasons, flowers, daffodils, for example, that come up in the spring. They're not around in the autumn because they are an early adopted based flower. They start young. And if you set automation up to kind of promote that process straight off the bat, and let's say someone filled a form in on your website inquiring about a bunch of flowers for a specific event, and you had an automation system that was set up to put them into a nurture process, and let's say they started that nurture process in the autumn, but the first round of emails was spring, that's just not going to work, especially if someone says, I want some daffodils, and you can't get them because they don't grow. That's going to damage the brand. I mean, a good example of using automation from my perspective is not necessarily always a communication tool. It could be that it learns about and adapts based upon behaviors a customer has. So let's maybe bring into the mix here of someone that sells, like course creators that sell courses online. And one of your metrics, so to speak, or KPIs, if you want to call them, could be that you want to try and get students or learners to get from, one part of the course to the other in a specific time frame. If one learner does not do that, you can have automation that can prompt them to say, hey, have you forgotten about your course? Here's some tips that can get you started again, or here's a recap of what you've done already to kind of edge them on. That is a great example of maybe how automation could help. There's simple things could be just connect your contact form to an automation sequence and let that prospect lead know that there is someone behind the business and they will get back to you. Because, for example, let's put a chart on this, okay? I'm the lead and this is the customer. If you don't tell me what the expectations are of lead time, my expectations are going to be up here when they should be here. If I then tell you, okay, we will get back to you within 2 hours, that brings that prospect back down to the same level of expectation. So now they can go away with peace of mind thinking, okay, I'm going to get a call in the next 2 hours, or I'll get a follow-up in the next 2 hours. Like, there's another great example and a simple one to get automation working perfectly for you, so you don't lose out, I suppose, on prospects and leads.
Yeah, because you don't have time to answer manually 100 or 500 or 1,000 emails a day if you're getting that many prospects coming in. And so, like, I wanted to go back. I want to do one more example of how automation can hurt you, and this is not to scare anybody away from automation.
Yeah.
But these are just things.
Start on the negatives, though, right?
Well, yeah, you got to start with the negatives because then you build it back up. But I've seen it also happen. So automation is one of those things where, again, you think through it, you blueprint out what you're going to do, and you start creating this perfect journey, this perfect sequence. A big problem too with automation is that it's very easy, unless you've thought through it, to have your prospect get drowned in emails. Yeah. Communications too frequent. It makes them sick of your brand if you're not doing it right. So one thing that we always try to set up for any date, and you want that customer to buy any of those products. Well, a lot of people put someone in product A, B, C, and D at the same time. So this customer is just getting pounced with emails, pounced all day, every day. And again, you kind of know a client when we're talking about in a certain Qigong space, that a lot of people would complain about that because there's just too much. It was too much thrown at you at one time. Yeah. So with automation, you can set it, and you should, to where if they're getting something for product A, stop B, C, and D. Don't send them that. Put a pause on that, take them out of those emails until they're done with product A, and then move them back in there. Same thing with Facebook ads. Same thing with chatbots. Same thing with SMS texting. Don't send them things that are going to overwhelm them, and use their actions or their non-actions to help kind of guide them in that process. And that's like the coolest thing about automation. It's the whole if this happens, then this happens. And thinking through that, you can make so much money, so much profit, and you can really give somebody an A+ experience if it's done right.
I agree.
And yeah, like an experience that doesn't feel like it's an auto. It doesn't feel like it's a robot. It feels like, hey, this company, they're listening to me. They're sending me things when I want to get them, when I'm going to open them. They're sending me product things on, that's relevant. They're sending me upsells on things that can make my life better with the product I've already gotten. So it's just kind of looking through that whole thing.
Yeah, and that ties back to what we said at the beginning, that it really does give you that insight to the things that work and don't work. Like even
Yeah.
just following a process of, okay, I'm going to automate parts of my business. I'm going to automate all of my business. Just going through that exercise alone is going to create a tremendous value for you, and also value from a perspective of, this didn't work. I mean, why have I just found this out now? This is not working. How do I change this? And that example you gave about a particular client that just, it ended up growing into a bit of chaos because there were so many people doing so many different things and not considering what others were doing, that you were customers are opting in for one piece of content and then another piece of content. And that's great. Like, you don't want to stop customers doing that, but you've got to treat those slightly differently. Otherwise, you end up bombarding them with way too many communications, which will then consider spam. They then mark you as spam. That creates reputation issues for your emails. I can go on and on and on, which I won't today, about issues of solving that. But as a positive, I think what it then also does is, if someone is opting in lots and lots of times, automation can be set to notify you about that. Because if someone is that keen and is that interested in your brand, they deserve maybe a bit more of a personalized journey, which automation can do, but it's better if you can take that process in another direction. That way, if their intent to buy is strong, that's an indicator of it.
Well,
So,
and that's a great segue into, we build, you and I are working on a sales training course together, and we build a lot of sales pipelines for businesses that have a sales team. And that's a perfect example, what you just said, because when you're a sales rep, inside, outside sales rep, sales manager, account manager, whatever your job title is, you're dealing with prospects. Your job is to sell your product or service to a prospect. But you don't want to be spending your time on someone who maybe is just browsing, no intent to buy. They might not be ready for 3 months. But what's interesting about automation is that, we can set it, we can build things to the point where it's like, all right, this client came in, hey, we'll notify you got a new lead. Cool. You don't have to do anything just yet. But if this particular client or prospect is doing a lot of things, they're showing a lot, their lead score goes up. When they hit that lead score metric of like a 5 out of 5 or a 4 out of 5, then the system can notify you saying, hey, you got a hot lead. You should manually follow up, give this person a call, send them a personal email. You should do this because this person's starting to heat up. But at the same time, it's not going to send you things if someone's, opting in for something and they never open it. They never download it. They never look at it. That person's just still going to stay a cold lead. So automation is not only for like the emails and the kind of the customer side of things, but it's also kind of on your business. It's automating your tasks, and it's helping your team get involved when they need to, which a lot of people don't do. A lot of people overlook that step when they look at automation. It's like, all right, how can I get involved in the process when I need to,
Totally agree. Well, one of the other thing then, maybe this will work perfect into, it seems like we're ending parts of the answers, and naturally let's go into the next part of the topic, and that's
natural progression. Yeah.
Examples of the results clients are getting from automation. Now, I mean, this is like my favorite subject, because
big money,
turn some real cool, exciting stuff around for people. But maybe, do you want to run off an idea or a particular client that you work with that has seriously seen either great gains from a sales perspective or seriously reduced time-saving aspects to what automation could have done for them?
Yeah. So I mean, I'll flash up a couple stats too on the screen. But there's, God, I mean, we really, honestly, and this is not kind of tooting our horn or anything, I cannot think of a client that has gotten negative ROI using automation. So over the past decade of us doing this kind of stuff, there have been there have been so many clients that we have taken from a low spot, not where they want to be, and 4x'd it, 6x'd it. We work a lot with entrepreneurs in different spaces. And we took one, I've routinely taken them from $15,000 a month to 50 grand a month and
Hmm.
more than that just by automating their systems. And I'm that confident about the results that it can give you to really say, hey, just about any business will see a positive ROI. When you look at the cost for systems, which are getting lower these days, the cost, I mean, heck, even our consulting and retainer cost, we're such a bargain for what we give. But yeah, I mean, specific results. I mean, heck, we can talk about the Qigong client that
Hmm.
you spearheaded. And I saw the results of what you did, taking them from like nothing to like, was it like $700,000 in a
Yeah.
year kind of deal, or like less than a year? I mean, that's just part of it. You can, and that was automating a lot of different systems. But yeah, I literally, I'm almost kind of at a loss trying to find something in my head where someone has not gotten a return on investment. I mean, heck, if you spend $99 or 200 or 300, even $400, $500 a month on a CRM system, you will make that back.
Yeah.
I mean, and then some. It's just that easy.
I
What do you
think
got?
a really good example would be working with a lot of people that trade time for money is probably an example I could give because, for example, this pandemic, I'll bring this back up again. It's forced us to change so drastically that it's sort of caught us off guard massively, like everybody, even
Yeah.
those that have really thrived during this period. And I've been very fortunate to be working with people that have thrived and have not had the downscale of it, and God forbid those that have. I mean, it's horrible, and I hope they get through it. But
Right.
where people were trading time, for example, those that did events, they sold maybe or had to sell maybe 40 seats to an event in order to make a good profit. That's just gone. And so an example of what automation has done for them is transferring their skill into a digital version, so an online event, so to speak, using some people call them webinars, others call them web classes, trainings, whatever you want to call them. They're great opportunities where automation can really smash it out of the park for you. And they transfer all their knowledge into that setting, bearing in mind they already have this knowledge, they already have a structure, they already have a curriculum that they can follow. All they then do is just record it, right? And what this is done is using Facebook ads, a platform called Webinar Jam, Ever Webinar, whatever you want to refer it to. There's two different versions of it.
There's lots of different systems for
Right.
that. Yeah.
We used Infusionsoft by Keep, and literally just put it out there on an evergreen process. It literally ran every 15 minutes. I think we spent about $1,000 a month initially, and then it scaled up. And by the end of that, that client was getting 6 times their return back and didn't have to get out of bed for it. Now, that's an extreme case. And yes, that might kind of seem unrealistic. It is realistic. But
Yeah,
you
it
know,
is. It absolutely is.
the key to this about its success is that you just got to learn and find ways that you can transfer maybe time that you're spending manually day in, day out. So tasks, I always say, if you have to do a task more than twice in a day, look at ways of automating it.
Yeah.
If you having to manually get back to clients more than twice a day, look at a way of automating it. Because you can still be personalized, you can still be responsive in a way that makes it look like you've done it rather than in a system. I mean, most people know automation exists nowadays anyway, so just be honest. But if you can find that extra piece that sits there that you think, well, do you know what? I don't always have to be there to do that. I don't always have to be able to renew the knowledge of that subject because it's one of those subjects like Qigong's like 3,000 years old. It's not changed a lot in 3,000 years. I can tell you that from my understanding. So you don't need to keep renewing it. So look at ways of automating it, whether it's transferring it onto a book, transferring it into a digital video, transferring it into a handout that can be distributed online, and get it out there. Because for coming into, what we 10% now through 2021, this stuff's only going to get bigger and wider. And I think as we spoke already about patience of people nowadays, they want instant stuff. They don't want to wait 2 weeks for you to set up your training. They want the training now and they want to learn now. Their mindset is in buy mode. Give it to them. automate that and let them experience that knowledge. And there's a perfect example really of why and how automation works. Because let's just be clear here, just to kind of labor the point a little bit, and I'll get a bit passionate about this, as you probably hear, is that
Rightfully so.
this is when, like, roll the clock back to the days when Microsoft was like a big player in the world, and there used to be this myth of Bill Gates used to make money when he was sleeping, right? And we was like, that would never happen to me. Well, I can tell you right now, it's now possible for the little man to do that. And this client was the perfect example of that. He sleeps, he makes money. And we're spending small amounts of money to make money. So it's not impossible. And I hope, even if you just take inspiration from this point, just look at what in your business, if you've got to do it more than twice in a time frame, how can you automate that? And how can that change either saving time or gaining revenue without your input?
Ooh, this is a perfect plug to schedule a free consultation. If you need help figuring this out, yeah, if you need help figuring this out, you need to talk to us. And that's, because I think that's the thing, is that so many people even just the amount of knowledge that we can drop with this subject can go on for hours and days. And it's too much. We get it. It's a lot to wrap your head around. And so the biggest thing that we can tell anybody is, let's have that chat. Let's look at your business directly, and let's try to figure out, hey, is there a way to automate your courses, your products? Is there a way to do this? What's bottlenecking you and your business that we could try to help you solve? Because it's not just, email, or automation is not just email marketing. It's internal processes. It's,
I agree.
Heck, we automate law firms.
It could even be a training program for new employees. Like it could be anything.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And the law firm example, that's not something that you think of automating much, like an attorney or like law firms, but you have to be sending out contracts to sign that are secure documents. You have to be following up for appointments. You have to be chasing that particular client to get the info you need to help be their lawyer. We automate that. And so, I think that there's just so many ways of looking at automation, but really it needs to boil down to take some time, think about like James, like what you were saying, think about things that you're repeating, ways that you could automate it. Let us help you, or let us help guide you in that process, which we do for absolutely no cost.
Well, I'm just literally taking words out of my mouth. I was literally just about to say that. There was someone that approached me the other day and said, like, we've been building this website for the last year ourselves. We're not techies. And they were like, I just need some pointers. And so even if it is just that, just to kind of lead you in the right direction, and rather than you going down rabbit holes or going down dark tunnels and can't see the light at the end of it, there is no price to this. This is a case of, we set this up to help. And if we can help you in a way that's going to make a difference to you, and we can develop that relationship and have that ongoing, then that's great. If it's, here you go, this is what you need to be thinking about, and perfectly timing again about our favorite tools. If it's just a case of, what tool should I use for this, or what tool should I use for that, we'll tell you. And then you can go and work it out yourself, or hire us and we'll do it for you. Whichever.
Because there are, let's talk about that. Let's talk about some of our favorite tools, because there are, if you look up, if you look up chatbot, you're going to find 100 systems that can do it. So, a couple of the favorite tools right off the bat for me, CRM wise, which is customer relationship management. That's, it's as basic as your email marketing, things like your MailChimp, your Constant Contact. Those are really entry-level systems that, heck, MailChimp, I think they give you a free account, and I think you can have up to like 2,000 people in that free account.
Yeah.
It's pretty darn good. Something like that. So, you can start email marketing just, for basically a free system, but those are really entry level. They're very surface. They're not going to be super dynamic. So some of the more dynamic CRMs that we use, Infusionsoft, which is Keep, ActiveCampaign, HubSpot, those are really robust and can grow with your business. Where, I mean, they even have e-commerce. I think that's one of the big things is that if you're trying to sell a product or system and you don't necessarily have a way to do it, some of these CRMs, they include this stuff that's right there. So, and then what do you think about some, did I lose you? What?
Recording's back on now.
All right. I can start that over if we lost some of it.
Yeah, it got to the end bit really. So we're kind of getting into the subject of favorite tools that can help you automate in 2021. And you were talking about more of the entry level products, people that may not have a lot of budget and just need some basic stuff. MailChimp being one. And you were saying that because it's free up to a point, like you can get 2,000 contacts and so many email send. I mean, you're gonna have to go onto MailChimp's website and find that out.
Yeah, it's something like that.
It's not something that
MailChimp.
I wouldn't consider it my favorite tool, but it is a great tool if you are really looking at starting out. Like if you were,
you're not really going to hire an agency to help you and do your MailChimp. That's more for kind of you doing a lot of the work yourself. Same thing with Constant Contact. It's really entry level surface stuff. Yeah. What I was saying, and you've got some of the more robust ones like your Keep and ActiveCampaign and HubSpot, and those they can be $99 a month. They can be over $1,000 a month. Like I've seen HubSpot instances at $5,000 a month. It really depends on your contacts, how much of the features you're using. Because these things now, they're going to integrate with your shopping carts. They're going to integrate with your e-commerce. They're going to provide you e-commerce if you don't already have it. Like you can have order forms in a storefront within these CRMs. They integrate with social media. They'll integrate with all that stuff. Yeah. And so there are some great tools. So we love working with those. James, what do you think about some of the chatbot systems that you like working with?
Yeah, well, let's maybe frame it in a way that, so if you're looking for lead generation or you're looking for ways of welcoming people that land on your website, so think of a shop front. What does the shop front look like before they enter in? Chatbots are going to be huge this year, and they're going to be huge purely because a lot of the chatbots recently have integrated artificial intelligence within it. So it learns, it kind of understands the questions you ask, a bit like Google does when you try and enter in something to find something out. It kind of suggests, oh, are you saying this? And you just click it and off it goes and gets the results for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
In terms of like chatbots, my favorite, there's two really, and I don't really look at any others because I love them so much. There's ManyChat. ManyChat works mainly with Messenger, which is a Facebook product, and it enables you to generate leads using the Facebook suite of products. It's a really cheap and efficient way of doing it, but it also allows you to develop that early start of the relationship, the cold audience to the warm audience, if you want to call it, or top of funnel, moving them into the middle of the funnel. And you can either have it manned by a human or you can have it set up to automate based upon questions that the bot asks versus the answers that are given. My second chatbot I like is Tidio, is Tido. Tidio I love purely because the way you build out the chatbot automation looks exactly like Keep and Infusionsoft.
Oh,
that's
cool.
That's why I fell in love with it, because I didn't need to learn a new way of doing something. And as I got more into it and I got other clients using it, then we started to see real tangible results from having like a bounce rate of sort of 60% down to 40%, because that extra percentage of people that usually would disappear, we caught them in the chatbot with on-page notifications. I mean, I suppose, like we've mentioned a little bit about CRMs and marketing automation, again, laboring the point, a CRM should be your core. That for me is what I always refer it. It's the core part of the business.
Yeah.
You put information in it, information comes out of it. And if you don't have one, you really need one. You can't be working off Excel spreadsheets or accounting systems. And I think they're not CRMs.
I think a lot of, businesses have good intentions and they want to use a CRM, but they don't do what you just said. Like, it's not their hub. They're not investing enough of like, all right, this is going to help us run our business. They're kind of just using it as a side note. And so when they're not using it or something like, oh, we don't want to pay for this anymore. So we just cut it. When again, I've never seen anybody with negative ROI when you're using this right. And so that's just kind of something I wanted to add. Other programs and stuff, I think, like tools, a lot of times with these, when you want programs to talk back and forth, there's things like Zapier that allow programs to connect. So if you have a CRM system and you want to connect it with your QuickBooks accounting, you can do that without having a developer on staff, without having all this crazy stuff. You can integrate your systems using a lot of different programs. Now, we custom do a lot of this stuff too. We custom write scripts and APIs and those kind of things. But if there is something on the market available that says, okay, we're going to have program 1 talk to program 2, and we're going to help be that link like a Zapier does, it's a great system. We use that all the time. And that's another one that I like. What else you have?
I mean, it all depends on what it is that you need. Like I'll just throw off a few and I'll give you an example of what they can be used. Like I'm a huge fan of Canva. And Canva, I mean, in a way, Canva's like a competitor of ours because obviously you can do it and you can go off and make your own designs rather than hiring a company that can do it for you. But I like it for lots of reasons. One, some people I work with, and sometimes myself, it's sometimes difficult to actually describe what it is that you want. And with Canva, you can kind of dump your brain of ideas into something that can then form as a brief to someone that is much better at graphic design and then can make it into a pretty Canva.
That's true.
And so Canva is a fantastic tool. Plus, if you're running your own ads with Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, all these other platforms that are out there, Canva gives you the dimensions that are needed for those so that those pictures, those graphics, they look good. Not squashed or missing parts of it, which I see all the time.
Yeah, you and I have that problem still with our design team, and that's no fault of anybody. It's that at least you and I, our minds run at 1,000,000 miles an hour, right. So we quickly are sending our team things to do without being like. And it'd be so much easier sometimes to be like, all right, here's a vision of what I want. Here's a vision of this mock-up. So yeah, I mean, I think that's a good example there.
I think as well, it's like, I'm in the know of the trends of things that work with Facebook because I've got data. I'm subscribed to loads of different accounts that have all sorts of brilliant pieces of data in it. Like even to the point of seeing what the effects of someone with a face mark has versus someone that doesn't and what drastic changes that does to an ad. You can't always give that to a graphic designer. And so trying to describe that in intricacies like that it's just, there's so many facets to it. And they always say, don't they, right? A picture can speak 1,000 words. I don't have time to write 1,000 words to put a brief in. So I mean, that's another great tool. I mean, I suppose as well, again, I'm such a visual guy, so I'm going to really nail off things that I like. I use a piece of software called draw.io.
I do too. Yeah, I've got it on mine.
I think it's brilliant because, again, coming back to some of the points we mentioned in this recording here, is that automation can make a huge difference to just looking at what's working and what's not within the business.
Yeah.
Draw.io enables you to visualize and map out a process before you go and invest into something like a CRM and get it wrong the first time. You visualize that in Draw.io. It's a free product. It works and saves files in Google Drive, so you don't got to pay for it. And huge fan of it. And it allows for collaboration as well. So I could draw something, I can send it to Brian, and Brian can put a note against it to say, actually, I thought of this. So it kind of creates a bit of a collaborative process set up to it.
Because everything with Draw.io, that's essentially mind maps. I think a lot of people have heard the term mind map, and what that is, we draw mind maps for just about everything that we do because you have to have the process. Here's the form, then they go this way, and they could split out into these directions. And you have to kind of have a way to illustrate that in a visual form. As James, you and I are very visual, so that's why we like these programs. And that And that way everyone, including the client, will understand here's any which way a prospect can go. And we're kind of showing you this story. And I always used to think about it, when you look at Pixar, when they make movies, a lot of the really cool behind the scenes of Pixar, you see them making the storyboards. Before they make a movie, they're drawing out little scenes on Post-it notes and they're sticking it on the wall. That's essentially what we're doing here is we're drawing out our storyboard. And so, draw.io, I like that a lot.
I think as well, it's like, I know we've kept things very top of line of conversation here because let's be honest, we haven't got time to be able to tell you everything. But the key here is that these tools, we mention them, are the great stepping stones for getting something working. Like the example that we gave around the chap that used to do online events in person and now does everything online and makes money when he sleeps. That's wonderful. But the makings of that was involved with the products, the tools that we just mentioned. Like it started in a draw.io diagram. It then got visualization from a Canva to put briefs into a graphic designer. So these tools are the backbone of success, but they don't get talked about. You'll get lots of gurus out there that will go, this is how you make 7 figures in a business. Great. Yes, it probably did work, but it took them 10 years to learn that. What we're going to be delivering is things that we're doing right now and tools that are working right now that will make the backbones of the structure work. And then you can then bring it to life with building the campaigns out in things like Keep that we've mentioned, MailChimp that we've mentioned, ManyChat. I mean, I wish I had more time. I'd literally give you a shopping list to go and buy.
And I think that's a good kind of list to start because again, with this topic of automation, it is so freaking big and vast, and you can quickly just go into this black hole of like just this, oh my gosh, there's too much to do. I can't figure it all out. I've been there. You've been there. And I mean, with the sales training I'm doing, I kind of had that same thing of, oh my gosh, there's so many things out there. But when you take a step back and you look at some of the core platforms that you need, the rest will start to make themselves evident. The rest will start to come to light of, okay, we have 75% of what we need here, but we need something that can do this.
Yeah.
And that's where you start to kind of fill in those other 15 or 25% of the pieces that way. But yeah, definitely get those core platforms in place. A CRM system should be used for any business. Like literally, if you have a website, you should probably have a CRM system of any size. Yeah. And there's really no excuse not to.
No, I agree. There we have it then. That's on the hour, that one. Wow.
Well, hopefully, I mean, I think, hopefully this kind of stuff helps anyone that listens to it and just to kind of get in the right headspace of the importance of this stuff. You talk about people needing instant gratification. Chatbots do that. Chatbots, email marketing help somebody. I mean, if they're up, they can't sleep one night and it's 1:00 in the morning and they want to get results, your system needs to know that and be able to deliver those results when somebody wants it. So that's just something that, we're in more and more of a world of instant gratification where you can live your entire life without leaving one room if you didn't want to. Everything can be delivered to you. Everything is custom catered. It's all, I'm not necessarily saying it's a good thing, the way we're going as a human race, but it is the way we're going. And so, adapting.
Fact for the day. I read in an article yesterday that
I like fun facts.
We call it the Treasury in the UK. I'm not quite sure it's called over in America, but the American bank that prints the money are now considering a cryptocurrency for US dollars. So if you get an institution like that now seriously looking at replacing the dollar note, the pieces of paper that you carry around in your wallet, and then innovating into a digital concept.
It's crazy.
If you're thinking automation is a waste of time and don't think your business suits digital or Facebook doesn't work for you, you need to get your head out the sand now and start considering implementing it. And it's not too late.
I know you love your crypto.
It's not too late to do this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. No, I think that's good. So yeah, man, let's wrap it up there.
Yeah.
And then we'll come back next time with another topic that hopefully will be pretty cool too.
Yeah.